as Cynthia mentioned, I'm Dave Steele, and I've been in the investment real estate business for about the last 25 years. When people say, am I from the north? I am from the north. I'm from North Vancouver. And I didn't end up in Fort St. John and Dawson Creek by accident. We went looking about 3 or 4 years ago when we sort of wanted to focus on the top resource markets that are expanding in Western Canada. And there's a very compelling story as to what's happening in the north, and I'm going to share a little bit of it with you this evening. So over the last 25 years, I've been involved in about 85 projects. About 15 years ago, we got investing in Fort McMurray in Calgary. The building in the bottom right-hand side in Calgary, our investors acquired properties, 2 bedrooms in that building in Calgary, for about $69,000 each for a 2-bedroom. And now, some 15 years later, those are all worth in excess of about $300,000 a unit. We bought quite a number of properties in Fort McMurray, and at the time, the rents were about $800 a month. A 2-bedroom today in Fort McMurray, by the way, rents for about $2,200 or $2,300 a month. So there's been quite a move in that market. We've worked with about 12,000 individual investors who've all acquired investment properties from us. So we've got a very, very good track record, and our team is really focused on designing an entire program for investors. One of the things we're extremely proud of is that last year we won the Georgie Award for the best residential community for a project that we did on Vancouver Island called Qualicum Landing. If you go to the website qualicumlanding.com, you'll get a sense. So give you a little bit of an idea of the type of construction we do, because one of the things we've really found up in the north is that there's just a huge need for new housing. So we build all of our own properties up in the north as well, up in Dawson Creek and Fort. So if you've been reading the newspaper lately, you would have heard that the Vancouver Sun believes that the investment in Canada's natural gas could rival that of the oil sands. CBC News believes the industry could be worth $1 trillion. There's a lot of talk about the glory days of what's happening, and I'll show you a little bit of what's happening. But it really, to start it all off, what drives it all is that Asia really needs the resources that we have in Canada. They need the oil, the gas, the agriculture, the forestry, and the mining. And obviously in Western Canada, and particularly northern BC, we have those things. We have the mining, we have the gas, we have the forestry, we have the agriculture. Obviously Alberta, has the oil. And so, one of the things we've really been focused on is how do we ride this resource wave? Because many people believe that the next 20 years is going to see the largest resource boom in the history of Canada, so that we're able to supply these resources to the Asian markets. And a big part of it all came when we had the big disaster in 2010 in Japan, the Fukushima disaster. And before that disaster, there was this many nuclear reactors all across Japan. After the disaster, there was 2. In fact, they're now down to 0. They're talking about bringing back some of the nuclear reactors. But they are running into issues because over 80% of the Japanese are anti-nuclear. So it's really leading to a very critical supply shortage that's happening in Asia. And right now there's over $44 billion being invested in Japan, China, and Korea to build LNG facilities to receive gas from other parts of the world. So if you look at each of these red dots, each of these red dots represent a multi-billion-dollar facility in Japan, Korea, and China, where they're building LNG facilities to receive LNG from other parts of the world. What happens is the gas comes out of the ground in a liquid form. It's piped out to the coast, typically, and then it's converted into liquid. And in a liquid form on a tanker, they can ship it in a liquid form, and they can carry about 600 times more gas than it can be carried in a gas form. It's then shipped across, put back into a gas form, deliquefied on the other side, put gas into a gas form in Asia, and then used in Asia. Today, Canada is not in the business of supplying any gas. All of the gas that's happening right now in Asia, the natural gas, is coming from Qatar, Malaysia, and Australia. And we have a huge amount of gas up in the Fort St. John, Dawson Creek area, right on the Alberta-BC border. They believe that we have 30% of all of the natural gas in North America. So that's not 30% of all the natural gas in BC or Canada. That's 30% of all the natural gas is in these two areas. They believe it's about 140 years supply of gas in this area. So that's really, at the end of the day, that's what all the excitement is about. On top of the fact that these areas are very significant for mining, very significant for agriculture. The agriculture is about an $80 million a year industry. The forestry is a huge industry, also about $80 million. But the gas and the drilling is very significant. So what we're seeing is probably all the stuff you've seen in the news has talked about all of these facilities that they're talking about building on the coast in Kitimat and Prince Rupert. They're projects with Apache and Chevron, with Exxon, with British Group, with Petronas. Petronas is the Malaysian state energy company, and it's a joint venture. They've just acquired Progress Energy out of Calgary. And each of the red dots that you see on here are for each one is about a $10 billion facility. So the Chevron Apache is about a $4.5 billion facility, and they've spent about $800 million already this year. They have 800 people working full-time right now in Kitimat, and they still have not got to a final investment decision. One of the larger facilities is Shell, Mitsubishi, and KOGAS. KOGAS is the Korean gas company. It's expected to be about a $12 billion facility, and it'll be one of the largest private projects in the history of BC. This is a big one as well, Progress Energy and Petronas. Progress Energy was just acquired about a year ago by Petronas, and it's about an $11 billion facility. And Progress Energy is one of the largest companies drilling in and around Dawson Creek and Fort St. John. The British group and Spectra Energy in Prince Rupert has about a $10 billion facility. So there's about 4 or 5 I'm showing you. There's actually about 14 facilities being proposed. No one expects all of them to go, but if 1 or 2 or 3 of them happens, the impact is huge. And if you look at it, you can see all of the companies that are in the Fort St. John, Dawson Creek area, because they're now getting ahead of the curve doing the drilling to get the gas, because they need a huge amount of gas to bring even one of these plants online. I flew home on a flight yesterday with one of the senior people from Progress Energy. They've drilled over 200 wells this year. They're on track for another 200 next year. And you can see by this headline, there's 50% more wells being drilled this year. So Petronas and Shell, their expected investment is about 750 new wells, and in Canada is about 80 to 85 new wells. So there's a couple things that happen. You can see the 2 green circles. One is the Horn River Basin. The other one is the Montney Basin. Once those are built, there's already a couple of existing natural gas pipelines that go out to the coast. There's a couple more that have to be built. So the couple more that have to be built are each in the range of about $4 to $5 billion. So there's, it's going to be another huge boost to the area. One of them is Coastal GasLink. It's Shell and TransCanada. It's about a $4 billion. And also what's happening is a number of U.S. facilities are applying for export licenses to export the gas, with their plan being to also get the gas from Dawson Creek and Fort St. John. So, one of the things you'll notice is we're heavily investing in Dawson Creek and Fort St. John, not so much in Kitimat and Prince Rupert, because the jobs in Prince Rupert tend to be construction jobs, and after a few years, 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 years, those jobs are expected to go away, whereas once the facilities are built, the drilling jobs are going to go on for a long time in Dawson Creek and Fort St. John. And this is a huge facility. Exxon just applied for an export license as well to look at building another facility in Kitimat and Prince Rupert. So you've got very, very significant. You've got the lumber industry, which is $20 billion, the mining, which is $24 billion, and then you've got the LNG LNG, which the ranges are anywhere between 100 and 250 billion, depending on what gets built. So a lot of the excitement is around the fact that over the next several years, there's a $52 billion capital investment in the pipeline. And that's for everything from processing plants on the ground in Dawson Creek, Fort St. John, Fort Nelson, to pipelines to the Kitimat facilities. So if you look at it, one of the things that we're very excited about is that you see the blue at the bottom. The blue at the bottom is the amount of drilling that's expected to happen. So all of that drilling, virtually all of that drilling, is all happening around Dawson Creek and Fort St. John. And keep in mind, these are two small towns. Dawson Creek is about 10 or 12,000 people. Fort St. John is about 22,000 people. So you can see there's a huge investment in the drilling, the LNG facilities, and then the pipelines. So what's happening on the ground? This is the new Shell facility. This opened less than 6 months ago. The Talisman Center, we took this picture. This picture's 6 months old. It was just opened. And since this picture was taken, Progress Energy bought all the assets from Talisman in Fort St. John. So Canadian Natural Energy has a brand new facility in Fort St. John. So one of the things that's very exciting, and we do what we call a discovery tour, where we invite investors to come up with us on a weekend. We go up on a Saturday morning. Everybody books a flight, comes up on WestJet or Air Canada on a Saturday morning, usually on the 8 o'clock flight. We pick everybody up on the airport on a bus. We tour around for all day Saturday, including having the mayor of both Fort St. John and Dawson Creek come and speak, usually one of the top realtors, one of the top property managers. We drive around, and you can really get a good chance to see firsthand all of the activity. We stay overnight on Saturday night, and then some people come home Saturday night. Some people stay on Sunday, and then on Sunday we drive down to Dawson Creek and tour through Dawson Creek. So the next discovery tour that we're doing a trip is September 20th and 21st. And truthfully, part of the reason is that, you know, I can give a 30-minute presentation tonight on what's going there, but really all I'm going to do is give you a reason to probably ask 100 questions. So I think if you come on the tour, and it's not a sales pitch, the tour is really good first-hand information. We usually get the MLA. He's coming to speak at our event on the 20th and the 21st of September. The mayors will both be speaking, someone from the regional district. So, and we drive by and see all the activity that's happening. So, again, two very small towns. Shell is anticipating 4,000 new jobs over the next several years, and Canada 4,000 jobs, and BC Hydro 7,000 jobs. So you go there and you look at this little town of 22,000 people, and you say to yourself, why did they just build a new $300 million hospital? There certainly don't need a $300 million hospital for a trading area of 65,000 people. The mayor, and you'll hear it firsthand from the mayor, they believe that the population over the next 6 years in Fort St. John is expected to double. So they're really building what they believe to be is going to happen in the future. And part of what's really happening is, as early as this fall, it's expected that they're going to announce the go-ahead for Site C Dam. It's a $7.9 billion facility, so it's about $790 million a year is going to get pumped into the economy over a 10-year period, and it's 33,000 direct and indirect jobs. So we'll actually drive and look at the site, and you'll hear firsthand from pretty much every investor grills the mayor or one of the councillors and asks them what they believe the timing and how soon it is. And the latest answer that we got is that they believe that there's very likely going to be an announcement sometime later this fall or early next year. And again, being close to the action of what's happening there, I can tell you that my expectation is that if they do announce Site C Dam, which I think most people up there will tell you it's not if, it's when, you're going to see a pretty significant spike in prices on the day that happens, in my opinion. So what we really look for is very simply, we look for look to see where the GDP growth is, look to see where the job growth is, look to see where the population grows. Because if you're out in front of that curve, you're ultimately going to see increased rents, increased purchase price, and increased property values. So the story of what's happening in northern BC and Dawson Creek and Fort St. John, it's a very compelling one. We have a number of different ways you can invest. Again, this is really more for the purpose of an overview. But this is our property. City Center is at 100th Street and 100th Avenue. About 18 months ago, we acquired a 20-acre parcel of property, and over the next 3 to 4 years, we anticipate building some townhomes, some duplexes, and a condominium. We're in the middle, and you can see the building on the top left of that corner, that square. That's a 50-story condominium building that's completely sold out, and each of those buildings below it are seven-unit townhome buildings, again, all fully sold out. And what's interesting is that right now we're already doing the marketing for that first building that's going to be occupied December 1st. And today is September, and we already have four approved applications of people that have applied to lease the first 7 units at very, very good rental rates. So, the rental market is very, very strong. In the property that we currently have available, we have 2-bedroom units with gas fireplaces, 5 appliances, washer dryers that are $289,900, and 1-bedrooms that are $184,000. All of our properties come with 2 powered parking stalls, which is quite a unique thing up there because people that rent want to make sure that they can plug their vehicles in. Again, all of them come with 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, very, very nicely finished, which again you get to see if you come up on one of the tours. So we have 6 properties on those, and again on the 1-bedrooms. In Dawson Creek, we've acquired a 49-acre parcel. We've just completed the first 44 units. You can see there with the parking lot in the middle. Again, 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom townhomes. And on the left-hand side, you can see the duplexes that we have with coach houses. And every single unit that we have that is finished has typically been rented within about 48 hours of us getting occupancy permit. So, one of the great things about there is that most of the rental properties that were built in Dawson Creek and Fort St. John were built back in the 70s and the 80s. So as new, nice properties come on board, a lot of people are just sitting there ready to move as soon as something new comes on. And we also have some suited single-family homes in Dawson Creek. These ones are 3 bedrooms upstairs with a 4th bedroom in the basement and a 2-bedroom suite in the basement. So the cash flows on all that, Cynthia will go through it individually with you on how the cash flows look, but the cash flows on these are very, very strong. So, and then in Dawson Creek we have some more of the townhomes as well. So that's really the presentation for this evening. I'd encourage you, if anyone has any questions, most importantly I would encourage you to come on the tour. I think you'll find that it's very enlightening, and certainly any questions that you would ask me, you'll also be able to ask someone who's much closer to the source, the direct question: how close are we to getting Site C Dam? Where do you see the drilling activity going? What's the growth? The city will flat out, anyone from the city of Fort St. John will flat out tell you their biggest concern as city councillors in Fort St. John is what they're going to do to handle the growth when Site C Dam is announced.